Welcome to Cooking from the Cave. I'm Chef Pete Trusiak. Today we're going to do some apple cider spice donuts. A favorite of mine, especially at this time of year in the fall. We're going to be doing two different methods with this. One, I'm going to show you how to cream the butter together, add the flour, and then the second thing is deep frying on your stove top so that it's safe in your home and everything like that. The first thing is the wet ingredients. Wet ingredients are going to be your butter, and this is 4 tablespoons at room temperature, 1 cup of sugar, and from here you're going to use either a stand mixer or a hand mixer, and you're going to blend this up till it gets nice and creamy. Alright, I'm going to start on low speed. You want to be careful with any time that you're going to blend anything that's a dry ingredient because it's going to go flying everywhere. So start low and then work your way up higher once everything starts to come together. Alright, our butter and our sugar are completely creamed together now. And again, I just want to emphasize how important it is. Make sure your butter is at room temperature. Put it out overnight, and make this recipe in the morning for your family and just let it sit on the counter overnight. Our next step is to start adding some of our wet ingredients, or additional wet ingredients I should say. We're going to add eggs, we're going to add some buttermilk, some apple cider, some vanilla. A little trick that I'll do is I'll wet a towel, and this is if you're working by yourself. I'll wet a towel, put it into a circle, and I'll set my bowl up on that wet towel. Now what that'll do is, while I'm spinning or mixing, it holds my bowl in place, and I can add my other ingredients. And I'm going to add my eggs one at a time. And the reason for doing that is I don't want my mixture to get so cold now that the butter starts to harden up. So I want to make sure that they get incorporated slowly, so that I slowly change the temperature of this mixture. Alright, I'll drop my second one in. We'll let this go for probably about 30 seconds. All I really want to do is make sure I get it nice and evenly combined. Alright, we're getting to be almost a batter consistency. And I'm going to start adding my buttermilk. Again, I'll slowly pour it in. And the recipe, you can find the exact measurements on the website. Drop in my vanilla. This is a vanilla extract. And I'm going to add my apple cider, which I've reduced down to a 1/4 cup. Start off as a cup and a half. And the reason why you reduce this is so that you intensify that apple flavor. That cider may take about 25 minutes to 30 minutes on your stove to reduce. Again, you can do that the day before, put it in the refrigerator, pull it out right before you're going to do it. And you just want it to get this really thick consistency on that cider when you reduce it. Let me show you what the batter looks like. All the wet ingredients are in there. Now we can start adding our dry ingredients as well as our spices. Now, this wonderful mound is flour, cinnamon, baking powder, and baking soda. Make sure you buy double acting baking powder. One reacts with the acid that's in here, which is your cider and your buttermilk, but also it'll react again once it hits something hot. And in this case, again, it's that stovetop fryer that we're doing. We're also going to add some nutmeg to this, and this is a microplane, and I'm just going to grate the nutmeg. You want to make sure you're buying nutmeg whole, and don't buy the powdered or pre-ground stuff. And the reason for that is that powdered pre-ground nutmeg is going to be sitting on the shelf for you don't know how long. So I'm going to grate just about 1/3 of it into my bowl. Set that aside. And now we can incorporate our dry ingredients into our wet ingredients. And again, this is important to have that towel there underneath it because I need one hand to hold the dry and one to hold the blender. And I'm just going to slowly incorporate this over the next minute or two until it's all in the bowl. Alright, so our batter, which I just tasted is delicious, is nice and creamed, well combined. We're going to add a final ingredient, which is pre-grated apples. I did it on a large holes of a box grater. You could use a Cuisinart if you wanted to as well. If they brown a little bit, it's not that big of a deal. I don't want to really incorporate any more acid, so I'm not going to have you pour or squeeze lemon juice over it to keep it from browning. These are going to get fried. They're going to change the color anyways. So at this point, what we want to do is we want to get a pretty firm spatula, and we can put our hand blender away for now, and we're going to just hand stir this in. And the reason why I do that is because I don't want to overwork the gluten in the flour, and I don't want to overwork our leavening agents, which is the baking soda and the baking powder, and beat it up so much that they're not going to rise. It's a common mistake people make when they add chocolate chips to cookies or add anything to any leavening type doughs. They overmix it and they wonder why everything is flat. So don't overmix it. Just get it nice evenly combined like that. We're going to get ourselves a nice clean work surface. I have a sheet tray that I've had in the freezer now for a little while, and probably about 5 minutes. I put it in there. It's cold. And from here we're going to just lightly flour the sheet tray. It's got parchment paper on it. The reason why I have it in the freezer and why it's I pre-chill it is so that I'm not incorporating or I'm not putting any heat, extra heat to our dough right now. I want to make sure that it stays cool, doesn't stay too hot or doesn't get too hot. And we're just going to scrape out that batter onto our floured parchment paper lined sheet tray or cookie tray. Set that guy right there. I'm going to sprinkle the batter again on top. It looks fairly wet. That's good. And I'm going to get my hands nice and coated with flour as well. And all I want to do now is I want to spread this out nice and flat. And you can use your hands. You don't have to use a rolling pin at this point. And just get in a nice even level. Now we're going to take our dough and we can put it in our freezer for about 20 minutes, and we'll come back and we'll punch out our donuts and we'll be ready to fry. Alright, so our dough's been in the freezer now for 20 minutes. We've allowed the dough to relax, and now let me show you how to fry the donut. I'm using Crisco over here. You can use oil if you have canola oil. Use a very neutral oil, not any sort of flavor or anything like that, especially not extra virgin olive oil. And you want your temperature to be at 350 degrees. Get yourself a good fryer thermometer to monitor that. And we're going to easily just take a donut cutter or a round cutter. You can even form these, you know, using the top of a pint glass if you need something about that size. And we're going to pull that dough out. And the nice thing about this donut cutter is it has for the donut hole. So we'll drop it in. You want to kind of just let it sit there. Make sure your oil's going to boil for you. We're going to drop the donut in now. And after about 1.5 minutes on one side, we're going to flip that donut over. You can see how quickly that little donut hole is starting to brown up for us. And I like to use Crisco versus oil because it gives it that less soggy oil taste to it. And what we're going to wait for here, we're going to kind of look for something that color. Our donut hole is getting nice and golden brown. And you can repeat this process over and over again until you use up all the batter. And when your batter is completely used up and you have, if you are cutting it with a round cutter or a pint glass or something that you can use, your scraps, I'm going to have you form with your hands into that donut shape, and you can just pinch the edges. They're going to be kind of a little bit different shape than your other ones, but you're using up all your dough. nice golden brown. And I'm going to transfer the donut hole and the donut to my drying rack over here. And this is nothing more than just a cookie drying rack on a sheet tray. Lets all that Crisco or oil drip off. And from here, to finally finish off the donuts, I have a mixture of sugar and cinnamon. And I'm going to put the donut in there. Do all three of them. And you want to do this while they're still warm so that they absorb and they kind of have that sugar stick to it. Same thing with anything fried. You want to put that with the salt while it's still warm so the salt will stick to your item. And I'm just going to lightly toss these around in here. And you get these awesome looking little donuts. Apple Cider Spice Donuts. Ready for breakfast. You can make these the night before, but they are delicious when they come right out of the fryer and still warm. Do the same with our donut holes. And thank you guys very much for joining us. Try this recipe out on the next weekend and surprise your family with these homemade donuts. See you soon.